So hey guys, welcome to a new video. I'm finally giving you my top 10 favorite films of 2021. Sorry this video is as late as it is. There was a couple films that I kind of had to make sure I saw before I kind of labeled this as my top 10. I unfortunately didn't get around to everything, unfortunately. But these are 10 films that I've seen throughout 2021 that I really feel kind of represent film in some way, shape, or form, kind of the best of the art form. Like any year, obviously, some of the things on my list that are going to show up here are probably not going to be on your list. I'm sure the Film Academy is not going to choose some of these films for their Best Picture nominations when they announce those. But these are just 10 films that really hit me in all the right ways. These are, like I said, 10 films that really kind of represent me as a person, represent me as a film goer and a movie enthusiast. So let's kind of dive right into it. I have quite a few films to talk about. Like I said, kind of like any list, we're going to start at number 10, and the more we work it away into number 1, those are films that I really, really liked. So obviously the film that makes it at number 1 is my favorite film of the year. But quick, some honorable mentions here before we get started. I have Luca, The Suicide Squad, the 2021 reboot by James Gunn, Venom 2, Let There Be Carnage, and The Matrix Resurrections. 4 films that are great that I highly recommend you check out. They didn't quite make the list, but let's dive into the films that did make the list. So at number 10, we have King Richard. I love this movie. I think Will Smith is definitely due for an Oscar. I loved his performance. I thought the story of Serena and Venus Williams was interesting in it. There were some things about them and about how they became the tennis superstars that they are today that I did not realize until seeing this movie. Um, just it's really well made. I thought the tennis stuff was really well handled. Let me get that glare out of my glasses there by doing that, or try to make it better anyway. So I thought the overall film was very good. I really hope Will Smith does win an Oscar this time. I know he didn't win one for concussion and things like that, and I think Pursuit of Happiness, I don't know if he won that one for that one or not, but he's definitely due for an Oscar. I really hope he gets it this time with King Richard. He really knocked it out of the park as Richard Williams. Made it in at number 10 on my list. At number 9 on my list, I have Last Night in Soho. I've been a big fan of Edgar Wright ever since Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. He knocked it out of the park again with Last Night in Soho. I thought the scares were good, the story was good. I'm not a big fashion design person to begin with, but the fact that he made it interesting, he found a story that got me a little bit interested in fashion design and kind of that world is really says a lot about the script and how good it is. I thought all the performances were great. Anya Taylor-Joy once again gives a great performance. I just thought the story was interesting. There's a lot of twists and turns in it that I was not expecting. I just like the overall journey that the film took me on. I like the film's perspective on how nostalgia can be both a good and a bad thing. Good that represents something that in our memory that we enjoy and like, but bad because sometimes when we think about nostalgia too much, we also forget about some of the bad stuff going on at that time period. There's just a lot of stuff that went on with women that was not very healthy that I'm glad is long gone. That Last Night in Soho brings to light of it around the time period this girl went back to it and things like that. But overall, it's a really well-made film. Edgar Wright, like I said, knocks it out of the park again. Definitely a genre that I hope he explores some more, as I really liked it the way he explored it in this movie. Last Night in Soho is number 9 on my list. At number 8 on my list, we actually have a film that's a director's cut of a film that came out in a previous year, and that's Zack Snyder's Justice League. I really enjoyed this movie. I will say right off the bat, I probably won't rewatch it a lot just because of the fact that it is so long. But just the idea that Warner Brothers kind of put their problems on the table. Zack Snyder put his problems on the table that they face with production. They put the whole Josh Whedon stuff aside after he stepped in for Zack Snyder when his personal tragedy happened. But the fact that they were able to let him go back, let him make the film he wanted, let him do the cut, let him do the scenes, let him do the material that he wanted to do. And even though it is a good solid 4 hours, if not longer in length, the fact that they let him do the film that he wanted and that we got to see his full vision, I thought was really cool. I do think a lot of the dark side stuff and a lot of the I forget the Steppenwolf. Steppenwolf was the lead villain of that movie. A lot of the stuff that Zack Snyder had in mind for that was definitely much more fulfilling than what Josh Whedon had in mind. It was just so great to see his vision of the movie. It was so great to see his full, uncut, 4-hour vision of the movie. Like I said, probably not the most rewatchable film on this list, but just the idea that he was able to make this film and get his vision out there, and it was a lot of fun to watch. I thought it just made me very happy as a moviegoer, and I'm glad that this version of Justice League exists, as I do feel it is a better film than the original cut that we got. So that makes it in at number 8 on my list. At number 7, we have Free Guy. This film was so much fun. I've been a lifelong video game person, so just to see a comedy that acknowledges all the kind of bonkers, out there stuff about video games, about people who play them, people who play online multiplayer, just all the stuff it had on its mind about video games and about background characters and about memes and about people who do goofy stuff on like Fortnite and things like that. Just a really fun movie. Ryan Reynolds totally had a blast with this, you could tell. I just had so much fun watching this. It made me so happy leaving the theater. I thought all the jokes hit in all the right ways. Definitely self-aware in all the right ways as well. So it made me very happy as a moviegoer. Number 7 is Free Guy, and it made it on number 7 on my list. So at number 6, we have Ghostbusters Afterlife. This is a film that once again just made me very happy. I've been a lifelong Ghostbusters fan. Mostly the first film in the animated series, I think, is where my Ghostbusters fandom came from. I enjoyed Ghostbusters 2. Not the most rewatchable sequel out there. Definitely did not like that 2016 reboot they did. But I'm glad that Ghostbusters Afterlife is kind of the proper part 3 for Ghostbusters that we needed. I thought everything that we really needed for a Ghostbusters 3 was in Ghostbusters Afterlife, and it even introduced us to characters that we cared about just as much. I loved podcasts, and I loved the kids that the film based the story around and things like that. I loved the whole Stranger Things vibe. I loved the idea of kind of Goonies, but in a Ghostbusters movie. It was just a Ghostbusters sequel that I needed in my life right now, and I'm so glad it exists. It makes it in at number 6 on my list. At number 5 on my list, we have a film that not a lot of people were excited about, but I thought the trailers were very promising, and thankfully the film lived up to the trailers, and that is Cruella. I loved this movie. I thought it was just so great. Emma Stone was so good as Cruella de Vil. I liked that they got Glenn Close's blessing for her to play the Cruella de Vil character, and Glenn Close also gave the project her blessing as well. It's definitely, I like that it's 101 Dalmatians, but before all that happened. It's definitely Cruella de Vil's story, and I like how it's a younger Cruella, and we kind of see that she wasn't completely terrible from the beginning, but then we kind of see over time how she became the person that she did, the people that kind of made her the person that she was, the villains in her own life that made her the person that she is. I just thought it was a very well-made how a villain came to be kind of story. I know they got the director of I, Tonya to work on it, and it was just so good. I was just so happy with it, and once again, kind of like last night in Soho, I'm not a big fashion design person. This film once again got me interested in fashion design. It just got me so interested in what goes into it and how hard people work in that industry and things like that. I just thought it was a super well-made movie, and I'm very happy to put it at number 5 on my list. At number 4 on my list, we have a film that was kind of getting people back into the theaters. It was getting the summer blockbuster season going along with some other films. And it was going to come out in 2020, but the pandemic hit right when the release was supposed to happen. So we had to wait until 2021 to see it. And that is A Quiet Place Part 2. I went with a good friend of mine, and we just had a total blast with this movie. The scares were good. I like how they showed day one of the invasion. I liked how they continued the story forward. I liked how they showed how people would sacrifice people they didn't know to kind of stay alive from the aliens. They showed you things about this invasion that we didn't get to see in full-fledged form in Part 1, since Part 1 focused on the family and things like that. Part 2, once again, does focus on family, but it also focuses on things that we really didn't get to see very much in Part 1, and we didn't get to see a lot of how other towns were handling the invasion and things like that. And so I like how A Quiet Place 2 focuses on those things and focuses on those qualities. And John Krasinski knocked it out of the park again. I really hope he directs more movies. It's too bad I don't think he is directing Quiet Place Part 3 as far as I know, because I know they're trying to make a third one at this point. I hope he just directs more movies. I love the way the man directs. And I'm very happy to put Quiet Place Part 2 on my list here at number 4. It's just a very well-made film that I highly recommend that you go watch. We had number 3 on my list. We had the film that's, to this day, I think the most financially successful film of 2021, and that is Spider-Man No Way Home. I love this movie. I've been a fan of Spider-Man since I was a little tiny boy, and I was just super happy with this movie. I was happy to see what characters showed up here. I was happy to see how this film fixed earlier Spider-Man films, and you kind of have to see the film in order to know what I'm talking about regarding that. It was just a super well-made movie. I loved how they wrapped up the Tom Holland trilogy, the home trilogy as they're calling it now. Everything I love about the Spider-Man characters in this movie. I like how complicated the character is. I like how real and human the character is. I just could connect with him in so many ways, and the story was so much fun. The action was great. The comedy was great. The stuff with Doctor Strange with him working his magic was great. It's just a really super well-made Marvel film that I'm happy exists, and I'm happy that it's included in the MCU, and it just reminded me of how much I love the Marvel Cinematic Universe and why we should continue to embrace that universe. And I'm so happy to put Spider-Man No Way Home at number 3 as a result. At number 2 on my list, we actually have a film I got extremely emotional to watch in theaters, and that is because my father is a huge fan of this franchise as well as me, and that is 007 No Time to Die. This film was pushed around so many times due to the pandemic, and I'm so happy I finally got to see it because it is an extraordinary movie. The cinematography alone in this movie is just so breathtaking. If you go and rewatch like the first 25 minutes of this movie, and you see the scenes where Daniel Craig and Léa Seydoux are kind of traveling together and exploring. I think they're in Italy or something like that. They're exploring something in a different country, and they're on vacation. And just the shots that Cary Fukunaga got for some of those scenes are just so extraordinary. The action was great. The journey was emotional. I also liked how this film explored kind of the myth of James Bond, kind of how we just assume that he's invincible. We assume that he's not human. We assume that he doesn't feel the way we feel. And this film's like, no, he's a person like you and I. He's somebody where if he wants to retire, he wants to retire. If he gets hurt, he gets hurt. If he falls in love and gets his heart broken, he goes through a very, very difficult time like you and I do. And I like how this film explores that. I know Skyfall kind of explored the more human side to James Bond too, but this film is just so great. And I love the love story between him and Léa Seydoux. There's some of the stuff that the two of them go through throughout the course of this movie. I think a lot of people do go through. I think a lot of relationships are that complicated. And it's just so great to see a James Bond story where, kind of like what the title says, James Bond is just such an insanely busy and mission-based person that the man just has no time to die. He has no time to have a moment to himself, to enjoy life, to be able to just enjoy a small little vacation like all of us do. That, you know, Spectre is always after him, and so this film is always exploring the idea of be thankful to be normal, be thankful to be able to go on vacation, enjoy some time off, enjoy a time away from your job and things like that. And so I like how No Time to Die explores these ideas, and it explores it in a very well-made, action-based spy movie that's extremely well handled from Cary Fukunaga. No Time to Die is absolutely number 2 on my list. At number 1 on my list, we have a film that a lot of people are probably going to be upset about, unfortunately. I just love this movie, and I still love this movie, and I've actually seen it 3 times over the course of 2021. I just think it's just an extremely fun movie to watch, extremely entertaining. It just represents me as a moviegoer, and it represents everything I love as a fan and things like that, and that is Space Jam 2: A New Legacy. I saw this film when I was recovering from surgery. I streamed it on HBO Max, and I love this movie. I was laughing so hard. Because I was recovering at my parents' house at the time I was watching this movie. Had to come in to kind of just see what exactly I was laughing at and stuff. And I just had a total blast with this movie. I remember seeing the first Space Jam in theaters, and I think this is just an extraordinary sequel. I really think LeBron James, is as much crap as he's getting for this movie, I think he did perfectly fine. It's a fun movie to watch. I loved how they incorporated all these Warner Brother properties into the movie. I loved how the Looney Tunes got reintroduced to everybody. I loved how all the Looney Tunes had a personal role in the movie in some way. Each of them kind of had their own little agenda to kind of get back into this basketball team and things like that. it's just a film that just makes me very happy. It makes me very happy as a moviegoer. I've been pushing this since day one. I love when live action and hand drawn animation are incorporated together. I think ever since I saw Who Framed Roger Rabbit as a kid, I've been really into that kind of stuff. And so Space Jam 2 just really represents me as a moviegoer. It represents how fun film can be, how flexible film can be, how summer blockbusters are not just that and they're not just this. There really could be all of those things. And I think Space Jam 2 represents that extremely well. So it makes it in at number one on my list. So that was my top 10 favorite films of 2021. You guys, let me know down below what some of your favorites of 2021 were. Hopefully 2022 will give us some great films. Hopefully the pandemic won't interfere with too much with some of their releases and things. But let me know down below what some of your favorites were. Like I said, I didn't get around to everything in 2021. These are just 10 films that I personally really enjoyed throughout the year, and I hope you do too, and check all 10 of these films out as well as my honorable mentions. And I'll see you guys here for another video, and let me know, like I said, down below what some of your top 10 favorite films of the year are.